Welcome back, folks, to Los Angeles Sex Therapy Team Video Interview Series, founded by Moushumi Ghose, AMFT. In this series, we introduce you to our therapists and our coaches so you can get to know them on a more personal level by seeing them, hearing their voices, and learning more about their unique approaches to this work. I'm your host, Jamie Azar, sex, relationship, and intimacy coach at Los Angeles Sex Therapy and founder of Erotic Expressions. And today we're joined by Clark, who will be sharing insights into their philosophy and the way they support clients. Welcome, Clark, and thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you so much for putting this together, Jamie. I appreciate it.
We're excited to have you and learn more about you. So, Clark, if you're open to sharing, what inspired you to become a sex therapist in the first place?
So I grew up in an abstinence-only sort of state where I didn't receive any pleasure education. And so for me, I got really interested in understanding pleasure and building this out for myself. When I was in college, I had a sex podcast and I got into sex work after college. I was always just very interested in human sexuality, how it worked, and intimacy. I wrote some academic work about it. So it's kind of been this interest that's been bouncing around in my life for years. And I've also worked in the advocacy space for people in the adult entertainment industries. Um, so whenever I graduated and got my degree to become a therapist, it felt like a really natural fit going into being a sex therapist.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, it sounds like all those pieces of your life kind of fell together in the right way. And here you are in your journey and able to support others in their journeys as well. What would you say, Clark, is your unique approach to working with clients?
So I was trained in a lot of cognitive-based therapies. So um, DBT, EMDR, NTF-CBT. Um, but a lot of times I find myself drawn to a more liberation psychology. And by that, I mean kind of liberating ourselves from binary ideas of normalcy and how we should be. And so I really like to come into my sessions with my clients, getting them to challenge those ideas, to begin to see normalcy as a spectrum of being. Um, and to kind of augment this approach, I also like to bring in the body. I do a lot of somatic work with clients because I think a lot of times we can go really cognitive and we can understand our problems, we can understand where they came from. But if we're not tapping into our body, we're really missing a core piece. I mean, our body is what brings us into this world, how we navigate the world. And through that, I think that we're able to kind of get through not just the cognitive things, the beliefs things, dismantling societal ideas of normalcy, but also bringing in like the whole self. So I take a pretty comprehensive approach.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing. And with all those different modalities in which you implement and from which clients can choose for their own toolboxes, it's important work that you do, right? And it sounds like people need a more holistic approach, especially in this day and age, right? Where the body is often neglected and we often are walking around in our heads. So I love it. Thanks for sharing. In terms of misconceptions about sex therapy, are there any that you'd like to clear up specifically as it relates to gender or otherwise?
Yeah. So first off, I think the obvious one is that sex therapy doesn't always have to involve sex. And I think a lot of times just the wording of it can kind of take out people who might identify as on the asexuality spectrum. We focus on allosexuality, and I think that asexuality and aromanticism should really be included in the conversation. But on the gender front, I think that a lot of people don't think about how we're all performing gender in some way, and how gender is this ground that we're constantly fighting for and can be denied us. And so we're doing gender affirming activities, whether it's how we handle our bodies, the people that we engage with, things like that. And by starting to kind of understand these things and the ways that the pressure to conform to gender can harm us, and force us into very narrow boxes of being and finding pleasure and relating to others, we're able to find a broader sense of freedom.
Yeah, I love that. And it sounds like the work you do really focuses on the spectrum of sexuality and gender and helping people to dismantle those harmful binaries that keep people in boxes and, like you said, limit their expression and freedom based in that liberation work that you do as well. I love that. What's something, Clark, that you would say that you absolutely love about the work that you do?
Mm, I love seeing my clients become more comfortable with themselves. I love whenever they get curious about things that they maybe assumed were negative or wrong and start to find places where they're able to challenge that and find ways to accept who they are or to explore their values and to um, feel like they're reaching a greater degree of alignment. Um, I also am really honored whenever clients share things that are particularly difficult. I work with um, sexual assault survivors, and I think just building that trust to go deeper and to navigate something that is incredibly difficult and alienating together and come out on the other side um, feeling supported is just really a profound experience. And so I really treasure these moments that I get to have with my clients. Something about liberation psychology that I really love is that it is through um, working to liberate our clients that we also find our own liberation. And so I really believe in that. I think that through um, facilitating this liberation, I also feel liberated from some of these societal things. So it's a beautiful co-creating relationship.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I know you mentioned working with sex workers, folks that may be asexual or aromantic, for example. Are there any other folks that you particularly work with that you might want to shout out in this conversation if they're looking for support as well?
I'm really excited to work with all clients, but I love working with people of color. I love working with survivors of sexual assault or CSA as well. I'm very excited to work with queer community folks. Um, and I am also really interested in issues of masculinity. I think that it's really important to have some complicated conversations about masculinity with men, and that I like working with non-monogamous people. But I want to say to people is that it's really scary to try and get therapy. And talking about sex can be incredibly uncomfortable for a lot of people. I mean, societally, we're not given the words to talk about it, and we're shamed for having desires. And it can be incredibly confusing, especially whenever your desires deviate from what is seen as quote unquote normal. And so I really want to welcome you into a conversation that doesn't have to be so fraught. We can work through it together. I can bring my own personal comfort with these topics in there to support you. And I want it to be fun. It doesn't have to be super painful, and it doesn't have to feel like you're a failure to talk about something or to acknowledge that maybe something isn't working the way that you want it to. So I hope that if you're looking for that kind of experience, you reach out to me to be your therapist, because I'd love to help you with that.
Thank you so much. And thanks, Clark, so much for being here. And thank you, folks, for listening in and tuning in to another one of our interviews on the last interview series, again, founded by Moushumi Ghose, MFT. Until next time.